On January 8, 2003, U.S. Air Express Flight 5481 took off from Charlotte Douglas International Airport, and less than 40 seconds later, it crashed into an airport hangar, killing all 21 people on board. The resulting investigation concluded that two separate issues caused the crash, and if any one of these problems did not occur, the pilots may have been able to save the aircraft. This video will revisit this accident and will take you to two memorials, one at the airport and the other located in a nearby Charlotte cemetery. U.S. Air Express Flight 5481 was scheduled to fly from Charlotte Douglas International Airport to Greenville-Spartanburg International Airport in Greer, South Carolina. The plane was a Beechcraft 1900D, a twin-engine turboprop, and it was at capacity. 19 passengers and 2 crew members were on board for the 40-minute flight. 25-year-old Captain Katie Leslie was an experienced pilot, having close to 2,000 hours total flying experience at U.S. Air, including over 1,000 hours experience piloting small aircraft for the company. Previously, she was also a flight school instructor and flight supervisor at her university. The first officer, 27-year-old Jonathan Gibbs, had 706 hours flying Beech aircraft for the company. Both the captain and the first officer were considered to be very experienced in piloting small aircraft. On the morning of January 8, 2003, the crew performed their checks in preparation for the flight, and then were instructed to take off from runway 18R. Runway 18R runs from north to south, and in 2003 it was close to the center of the airport's buildings. As you could see today, additional runways have been built. The old 18R is now named 18C, while the new 18R is located off to the west. Hey everybody, we're at the Charlotte Airport observation deck. You can see the skyline in the back. I'm standing very close to the runway that was 18R back in 2003. It's now called 18C, and where that plane is sitting is actually where Flight 5481 began. So let's follow that plane down. And as we get to the other end of the runway, you will see a tower. And in front of the tower is the hangar where the plane crashed into. On the right, the very right of that hangar, you can see a couple of planes sitting there, and that's actually that big area on the side there is where the plane crashed into, and then kind of landed on the side of that building. Shortly after 8:46 a.m., they began their flight and lifted off. Once airborne, the nose of the plane continued to rapidly pitch up, and the pilots were trying to push the plane's nose down by pushing forward on the controls. The plane was about 100 feet in the air, traveling at 140 knots or 160 miles per hour, and the nose of the plane was at a 20-degree angle. Around 10 seconds later, the pilot radioed the tower indicating an emergency. Over the next 5 seconds, the plane, now at 1,100 feet and with a nose-up pitch of 54 degrees, went into a stall, and the stall indicator was heard on the cockpit voice recorder. The plane then quickly rolled to the left 127 degrees, then 68 degrees to the right, before ultimately crashing into a maintenance hangar and catching fire, killing everyone on board and injuring one worker on the ground. The flight voice recorder captured all communications coming from the captain and first officer as they tried to regain control of the plane, and the transcripts of the recording shows that they desperately tried to save the plane but were unsuccessful. The pilots knew they were in trouble almost instantly after liftoff. The transcripts also present one additional word captured by the hot mic located in the cockpit. The word was not spoken by the flight crew, but a passenger, and that single word was "Daddy." It's been commonly accepted that this word was spoken by 13-year-old Caitlin Albury. She was sitting in the last row of the plane while her father and her uncle were sitting 6 rows in front of her. The hot mic in the cockpit picked up the scream of a child sitting in the last row. This must have been a very loud and fearful cry. The National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, spent about a year investigating this accident. The NTSB concluded that 2 separate incidents occurred which contributed to the accident, and if any one of these issues were not present, the accident would not have happened. 2 days prior to the accident, the plane was in for preventative service. During this service, the elevator control system was inspected and adjusted. The elevator controls the plane's pitch. It is located on the rear wing and moves up and down to raise or lower the nose of the plane. The adjustment performed by the mechanic was done in error and restricted the elevator's downward travel to 1/2 of the manufacturer's recommended configuration. The mechanic had limited experience working on elevator control systems, had not previously performed this maintenance on Beech aircraft, and admitted to skipping critical steps in performing maintenance on this system. The mechanic was being trained by a foreman on the job, but both the foreman and a quality assurance inspector did not review the work performed by the mechanic before releasing the aircraft back into flight service. The foreman assigned the work and left the mechanic to perform this work on his own. Prior to the flight, the crew performed a weight calculation to determine if the plane was within safe flying limits. Calculations are estimated weights of passengers and luggage as approved by the FAA. During the investigation, it was determined that the approved weights were not updated in some time, which resulted in underestimated weights of passengers. It was also determined that some of the luggage was heavier than average. Post-accident calculations concluded that the plane was overweight by some 600 pounds and the luggage was not balanced correctly. Had the plane been properly serviced to allow full use of the elevator system, or had the plane's weight been under recommended limits and balanced, this accident would not have happened. Neither problem alone would have caused a stall or loss of control. The aircraft was successfully flown 9 times after it was in for service. The combination of these 2 issues contributed to the crash. All right, everyone, we are on the other side of the airport, and behind me, hopefully you could see that, is the hangar where Flight 5481 crashed into. In front of that is where it hit, and it wound up landing right in this area here. Hit the front part coming off the runway there, and then landed right about here. So over on this side across the street is the first memorial of Flight 5481, and we're going to take you to this one, and then we're going to take you to the one in the cemetery. This one was put up shortly after the accident. This is the back side of the memorial. There's a seating area, and on this side I believe is all the names of the victims of that flight. It's a little hard to see. But the top says, "In loving memory of those lost January 8, 2003 aboard Flight 5481. And there's the 21 names. And on the bottom it says, "May God's eternal light shine upon them." And you can see people have been here leaving coins. Very quiet area. It's another shot of the hangar. I believe this is a FedEx hangar now. I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure it's a FedEx hangar. Okay, what we're going to do next is we're going to go visit the memorial in the cemetery outside of Charlotte. I believe it's in Weddington, North Carolina, and we'll take you there as well.